You have the klipas noiga. You have the covering over goodness, where a little bit of goodness is revealed, right? So that's found by every person who is every Yid has this, and every Gentile who is a good moral person. Who is a good moral person? People who keep the basic 7 Noahide laws. So, this animal soul has a very interesting spiritual makeup. It's partially good and partially bad. You might want to say it's neutral. It's not neutral. It's not neither. It's a bit of both. And that's why you have people with a bit of both character traits. So we already discussed people with all the negative character traits that come from earth, fire, water, and wind. And by the way, there's good character traits that come from these. Like we're going to find later in Tanya, he's going to talk about how someone should get angry at the Yetzer Hara. We're going to get there in this shiur at the rate we're going, probably in like 5 years. But let's talk about good character traits. The Alter Rebbe says here, after having all the bad character traits that come from the animal soul of klipas noiga, you have also good character traits that all Jews naturally have. And also he's going to add in his book, Siddurim Dach, that all Gentiles who are moral people have. Naturally, for example, being merciful and being kind. They also come from the nefesh habehamis because it comes from the secret of the tree of knowledge of good and bad. Ever since Adam ate the apple, fun fact, it wasn't an apple, but anyway, since he ate the forbidden fruit, ever since then, you had everything in the world had good and bad mixed together. So, yes, the Alter Rebbe writes in Siddur that righteous Gentiles, and also the Rapil Parati writes in Pelech Harimon, that they can also attain the level of having good and bad together. So, let's give an example of this kindness and goodness that come from it. And then we're going to have to discuss why it's called kindness and goodness. Let me tell you a story. I have a cousin. His name is Shaya. Now, when Shaya was a young teenager, he was learning in a Masifta. And in that Masifta, there was a lot of staff. There were rabbis, there were teachers, and there was kitchen staff and janitors. So one of the janitors was a South American guy. And every day he'd be sweeping the floor. And every day Shaya would walk past him in the morning by breakfast and say, "Good morning." And the guy would be like, "Good morning." And that happened. That happened when he was in 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade. By the time he graduated, he'd been saying good morning to this guy every morning for 3 years. Now, he never thought about it twice. This was just something he naturally did, because Shai is a good guy. He's a naturally kind person. He's not doing any self-sacrifice here. He never had in mind to do something to get something out of it. So he didn't go below. The worst clipper wants something out of it. He didn't plan to get anything out of it. This guy's a janitor. What do I need from him? And then you have kedusha, holiness, is when you're going above and beyond your nature. He wasn't going above and beyond and answering the call of the hour and sacrificing his wants and desires. No, he was just being himself. Just natural Shaya being Shaya because he's a nice guy, because he has niceness in him. Therefore, he said good morning every morning to this guy. After 3 years, when Shaya graduated, this South American guy had a baby son, and he named his son Shaya. So everyone thought it was very cute. It's very funny, very cute. But then, sometime later, the guys in Yeshiva found out, Ezra, you remember this? You know the story? Yeah, the guys in Yeshiva found out later something much more deep happened. That Shaya was saying good morning to this guy every morning. Now, Shaya didn't know anything about this guy. Actually, they probably couldn't communicate properly because the guy probably had a very limited English. Most likely spoke mostly Spanish. But this guy, Shaya didn't know, was very depressed. He was going through such a depressive episode that he was thinking and seriously considering doing something that's the opposite of being alive. And the only thing that kept him going every day was the fact that he got a good morning from Shaya. Every morning, his bit of sunshine, his bit of feeling of humanity is worth it, that someone cares about him, was Shaya's good morning. And that's why he's so deeply thankful that when he managed to get out of his bad place and he got on with life, and thankfully he had a son, he named him Shaya after him. Now, you should say good morning to everyone you see. So, you would think that only a great tzaddik, a righteous person, is going to go and do nice things and go above himself. No. Every person who has a nefesh from klipas noiga, they naturally just want to do what's good and nice. Let me give you another example of someone who's good and nice. There was in this yeshiva, there was a Rosh Yeshiva, a dean, a mentor, a principal. How do you say Rosh Yeshiva? Head of the academy, whose name was Reb Chaim Meir Bukitz. You guys, anyone here related to him? So, headmaster. There we go. I'd say dean is better, no? Depends which country you're in. So, Reb Chaim Meir Bukitz one time went over to a young man studying in yeshiva. Why did he go over to him? Because he saw the guy looked very sad, looked very upset, he couldn't concentrate on his studies, looked very nervous, anxious. Firstly, that's a lesson for himself. When you should notice people, how they're feeling. You should go over to them. So he goes over to this young man and he said, hey, he didn't know the guy's name, but he's like, what's going on? So he tells him, look, I'm recently got engaged. And he's like, wow, mazel tov, amazing. What's the problem with that? Shouldn't be looking like that when you're getting engaged. So he says, no, you don't understand. I don't know how I'm going to pay for my wedding. He's like, why are you paying for your wedding? What's with your parents? He's like, no. I'm actually a student I'm a recent Baal Tshuva. I'm not from the community. My parents aren't from the society where you pay a lot of money for weddings. They're used to kids being self-sufficient and probably getting married quite a bit earlier. So I don't know how I'm going to pay for my wedding. So Bukit says, oh, I think I have just the thing for you. I happen to have this envelope in my pocket. He pulls the envelope out of his pocket, and without opening the envelope, he just gives him the envelope. Just gives him the envelope just like that. So the Bacher opens the envelope, and it's full of cash. And he's over the moon. He can't believe his good luck. What a godly miracle. He didn't know where he's getting money from, and all of a sudden the rabbi walks in with an envelope full of cash and gives it to him. Meanwhile, isn't that nice of him? I wonder where the envelope came from. Meanwhile, Rabbi Bukit comes home, and his wife sees him, and his wife's like, no, did you get the paycheck for the month? And he's like, I did. And she's like, so where's the envelope? And he's like, I gave it away. And the contents too, not just the envelope. And whatever. It wasn't the first time it happened. She wasn't too surprised. So you see someone here who's a genuinely kind, giving, generous person. So let me tell you, by the way, it's a bit like the story. You guys remember the story of Shalom Mordechai Rebashkin? That he was once in 770, and this Israeli bocher who was going around trying to get some money together to pay for his wedding. And he didn't have 2 cents to his name, and he came over to Rabbi Rebashkin. Rabbi Rebashkin was making a wedding for his own daughter. That day, he just ran into shul to quickly daven 1, 2, 3 before the wedding started. And he had in his pocket an envelope full of cash to pay. Some people you have to pay on site. The musician, sometimes the guy who sets up, the the chairs. It's very complicated. When you guys get married, you'll find out. You go to 770, there's a lot of different people who have a lot of different arrangements. He had an envelope full of cash. So this bacher goes over to him and is like, excuse me, I'm getting married. Maybe you could help contribute to help me pay for my wedding expenses. So Shalom Mordechai takes out the envelope full of hundreds. And he takes out 300s they needed for something straight on the spot. And he gives them the rest. So bacher looks at this and is holding a stack of bills. Stack of hundreds the guy just gave him. And he's like, never seen so much money in his life. He's like, Rabbi, maybe you made a mistake over here. So Shalom Mordechai looks at him and is like, yeah, I did make a mistake, and gives him the other 300s or so. Unbelievable. They're a truly giving person. You understand? This isn't someone, it's not like something coming from Klippa. People who come from Klippa, a bad person, a gangster, they do nice things to get things out of it. Yeah, you look at someone like Al Capone. You guys might share, you remember the Al Capone pictures? There's a snippet I have from, I think it's the Chicago Turbine. Who's from Chicago? Ezra, what's it called? No, it's not the Turbine. That's a silly name. What's it called? Oh, don't choke. Windmill Turbine? No. It has a name. What's it called? Okay, we're going to find out what Chicago's newspaper is called soon. But there's an old famous newspaper in Chicago. Tribune? That's a silly name. Chicago Tribune. Fine. So, they had this article in there of a soup kitchen opened up in the Great Depression. You know what happened in the Great Depression? Great Depression, it's a bit like yeshiva. No, so the Great Depression was a time when lots of people were very sad. Why were they sad? Because they had no money. Why did they have no money? Because the economy crashed. Yeah, the thing that all the economists are warning you is going to happen next year, every year, it actually happened that year. So there were lots of people who didn't have food to eat. So there was a very generous man who sponsored a soup kitchen, giving out free soup, coffee, and donuts to whoever didn't have a meal. And that man's name was Alfred Capone. Now, he was also famous for being a killer, a robber, a dealer in illegal substances, which most of them are no longer illegal, which is something interesting in this country, that every day substances become more and more. Anyways, it's not the best thing, but anyways, that doesn't make a difference. The main thing is he was a guy who did a lot of bad things in his life, and he's probably like a poster boy for the ultimate clipper, for impure, but he does good. Because some people do good for their own purpose, as opposed to someone who has nothing to gain out of it, nothing at all, zero to gain out of it. That's someone who's from Klippas Noiga, the shining clipper. It's clipper and good mixed together to the point that sometimes the good comes out, sometimes the clipper comes out. Let's move on to being to the next point, which is like this. That before I say the next story, I need to make a very important distinction. I don't know if you guys noticed, there's three character traits that the Jewish people are usually praised by. That there, you ever seen in the Gemara? Rachmanim, Baishanim, Goim Lechasodim. They're merciful, they're bashful, which bashful means demure in English, edel in Yiddish. And they do kindness. Here, the Alter Rebbe only said merciful and do kindness. Why didn't he say they're bashful? Why didn't he say they're quiet, stuck to themselves, demure, edler people? The reason is because that one's not natural. Here, the Alter Rebbe is only speaking about what's natural. That different people from different cultures and different genetics have different natural tendencies. And the Jewish people, thank God, have such nice natural tendencies that they have kindness and mercifulness. But being bashful, being quiet going, being an easygoing guy is not natural. Jewish people are naturally pretty feisty. They can make you, you don't want to get into a fight with them. The only reason that got included in the phrase in the Talmud that Jewish people are bashful or demure is because of the Torah. That after Hashem gave the Jewish people the Torah mateshes koicham shel Yisrael. It weakened their strength. Now, what does it mean weaken the strength? I thought Torah is supposed to give you strength. It's obviously good strength and bad strength. Some people have very bad strength. You want to fight me? I was once in yeshiva with this guy who his father made a very bad decision in education. That when he was a kid, I might get canceled for this, but I genuinely think it's not a good idea. When he was a kid in school, some kids were bullying him. So, first, I don't wish that on anyone, but I highly advise any fathers out there who are listening, if your son gets bullied, to teach him how to be self-confident and teach him how to stand up for himself in an emotional way and trust in himself and believe in himself so much that the bully's words don't have any effect on him and they'll all just disappear. This father decided to take a bit of a different approach and went and took his son to karate lessons. So then the kid, actually was pretty good at karate and he was a big guy. So when I was in yeshiva with him, when he was already, I think 17, 18 years old, he was an adult already, and still, anytime someone bumped into him by mistake on the hallway, his first response was, I'll beat you up. I'm black belt in karate. So that's a feisty guy. So that's a negative type of strength. That strength the Torah takes away, as opposed to a godly strength like a self-confidence, the belief that you can stand up for yourself, that the Torah would give you. But this is a very important lesson, because even though the Jewish people in general got the Torah, and that took away all these bad anger and bad strength, feistiness, maybe we should ask ourselves, if any of us sometimes struggle with that, we want to start up with someone, we want to get into a fight, we want to be like, hey, don't start with me. My father is bigger than your father. Yeah? Hillel told me that his father is so strong that he dug the pit for the Black Sea. You should know, my father's so strong, the Dead Sea, he killed it. So, if someone has that type of issue, then maybe you need to bring more Torah into your life. Maybe that'll weaken the bad strength, the strength of nefesh habehamis. Fine, last story. You ready for this story? It's going to sound like a weird story, and then I'm going to give my theoretical explanation to it. You ready? The Alter Rebbe was a little kid, and he was sitting outside on a hot summer day, and his grandmother gave him a special treat, a piece of watermelon. Delicious piece of watermelon. Wouldn't mind myself some of that on a hot day. Then his friend came over, and his friend wanted to smooch some of his watermelon off him. It's the word's mooch. Smooch is a very different word. his friend wanted to mooch some of his watermelon off him. And he's like, hey, can I get some watermelons? So the Frierdiker Rebbe did something very nice. He cracked his piece of watermelon in half, and he ate half of it and gave his friend half of it. Isn't that sweet of him? His father called him over. Now you think his father's going to give him a prize. His father tells him, I saw you gave your friend some watermelon, but did you do it with your whole heart? And with that, the kid saw that he realized that his emotions, that his midas, that his caring for a fellow was not complete. And with that, he burst into tears and ran off. So his mother saw that and goes over to her husband, the Rebbe Shab, and is like, what do you want from the kid? Leave him alone. So the Rebbe Shab says, no, this was a priceless lesson. With this, he acquired a good character trait. So as an adult, years later, the Frierdiker Rebbe looked back at this and said, that's real education. So let me ask you guys, what was the problem here? He shared it. Who cares why, when? I think the problem here is an explanation in Tanya that we're explaining today. Today we're explaining that some people, the nice things they do is just natural. Klippus noiga, they have some good, they have some bad. Sometimes they feel nice, sometimes they feel mean. Then tomorrow we're going to get to the godly soul, the selfless, that gets above and beyond any desires and does what's right no matter what. And I think that his father was trying to teach him a very important lesson. If you're doing nice things because you feel nice, sometimes you'll do mean things because you feel mean. If you feel nice today, you might not feel nice tomorrow. But if you train yourself to give another wholeheartedly and get above yourself and beyond yourself, then it'll never stop. Then you'll really be a giver. And you see that later the Frierdiker Rebbe grew up to be someone who spent his whole life dedicated to others, even when the communists tried to kill him for it, even when the Nazis tried to kill him for it, even when the American public laughed at him for it. He never stopped giving to others. Fine, tomorrow we're starting Perek Beis. Who's excited?